Yo, what is up, guys? I'm going to be interviewing Nicky Goldman, who is the number 3 ranked player in the world. He has 9 serial cards, 6 of them on Law, 3 of them on Sakazuki. He is one of the best players this game has ever seen, and I am honored to have this interview with him. But before the interview starts, I want to shout out my pro circuit that's going to be on June 9th, which is going to be this Sunday. If you guys don't have any plans, if you guys want to participate, that'd be great. It begins at 11:30 EST on Sunday, and then for those of you guys who don't know, you need a top 64 or higher to participate, or because the ranked simulator did a reset on their rank a few days ago, I'm allowing 1800 MMR on the ranked simulator to be able to play in this tournament for this month, but normally it is 2200. So if you guys want to sign up, go to moonlighttcg.com and then sign up, submit your deck list. Everything is due tonight, Friday. All right, guys, this is Nicky Goldman, one of the most consistent players, one of the best players to ever play the game of the Piece TCG. Would you like to introduce yourself, my friend?
Hi guys, I'm Nicky Goldman. I play Piece TCG. I'm Mr. Yeah.
Sorry, my dog was barking. I had to close my door real quick.
Oh,
yeah,
you're good. Yeah.
He plays Piece TCG pretty well, from what you guys can tell. How many serial cards do you have? I mean, you're pretty much a common name in the industry. How many serial cards do you have?
Right now I have 9 serials, 6 of them being Luffy and 3 Shanks.
Wow, and those are all on what leaders?
Let's see. I got the first 6 with Law.
Red, green, law.
5 sets. Yeah, Red, Green, Law. And then I got the remaining 3 with Saka.
That's pretty amazing. So one thing to note is you seem like you're pretty loyal to the soil in terms of, I saw that you played Red Green Law in Nationals, actually.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, that's pretty crazy. But you did end up getting, what was it, top 64, right?
Yeah, top 64.
Yeah, I think I saw your deck profile, and you were the only Red Green Law to even top 64. Probably the only person to even play Red Green Law in the entire tournament. Why did you do that, by the way?
I really wanted to prove people wrong, and because I really think the Sokka versus Law matchup was at worst a 50-50
Wow.
for Law. Yeah, at worst. So that means like the ceiling could, or the percentage could be higher for Law. And I just wanted to prove people wrong because the deck wasn't actually that bad, and it had a pretty good matchup spread against everything else besides Sokka. And against Sokka, I ran the numbers, and like they have to see like Lucci on curve twice, like so it has to be on like their 4 Dawn or 5 Dawn, and then they have to follow up with another Lucci right after that. And if they don't, Law usually can snowball the game into their favor.
Wow, and you're the only person that probably thought that, and
Yeah.
and I mean, you made it work. Top 64 at Nats is no joke, especially when everyone's tiebreakers were completely boshed because they cut the round. Was it like two rounds early or 1 round early?
Yeah, they cut. There's 3 undefeated, so there could have been 2 more rounds. Yeah.
That's crazy. Why Law though? Do you come from other trading card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, where there's like a heavy combo centric kind of like decks? Why did Law speak to you, and like why'd you feel like you were so good with Law?
So I started off playing card games back in 2014, playing Vanguard, Card Fight Vanguard.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was like my main game for a long time. I dabbled in a few other games, like in between. So I played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, played a little bit of Dragon Ball, and I try to, at least back then, I tried to take the time and like learn as many card games. So I learned games like Weiss, Pokemon. What else did I learn? Force of Will. And yeah, I never really got into Magic. The Magic scene around me is not that big. And
I never really liked the
Pokemon
art for Magic either.
Yeah, Pokemon's not really my style either. The game is a little too simple for me.
Yeah, I agree. I tried playing Pokemon one set during like this like Shaman kind of era, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of boring. Like I'm not doing anything except for drawing cards.
Yeah, but coming from a game like Vanguard, I would say helped me a lot with One Piece. I would say a lot of the fundamentals you have from playing Vanguard carries over really nicely to One Piece. And I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the top players including I believe like the world champion, are all like previous Vanguard players.
I actually didn't know that. Is
Yeah.
so Jonas is a Vanguard player, right?
No, no, not Jonas. I believe he's played Magic before, and that's it. I don't think he's played that many card games, which is kind of surprising. Like,
Yeah, he's
it's
pretty
insane,
cracked.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, other top players that came
Like
from
Chris
Vanguard.
Sock, Joshua Graham, I think is number 2 on the leaderboard now. Like, are they
Yeah.
all? Because I know Josh Graham because I
Uh,
played Yu-Gi-Oh. I thought he was more of a Yu-Gi-Oh player.
yeah, he's more of a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Chris Sock, I actually don't know where he's come from. I know he's touched Vanguard because he's told me before, but I don't think he's played that much. Let's see, the top of my head.
You're like a lot of top players, but I can't. Now that you mentioned it,
It's
who
just
are
like
the top
it's
players?
a lot of the top players don't like travel like out that often. Like I know some really good players from Toronto, like Stephen Lee. He's like one of the best Vanguard players. Brian Nguyen, he won the first Long Beach Treasure Cup in California, actually.
Cool.
So you'll see their names here and there, but it's not like consistent enough. Like it's not just Vanguard players topping
Yeah.
this One Piece event.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess I just don't recognize it because I'd never played Vanguard, so I don't know like who are
Yeah.
like the common names on there. But so
Yeah, that's
so were you
understandable.
a huge fan of One Piece? Is that why you decided to play it, or you just liked the way that the game played because it's kind of like Dragon Ball?
No, I actually have never watched One Piece before. I'm a card game player first, so when I just see a card game, I just like to pick it up and learn. Around the time One Piece came out, the Vanguard format wasn't like doing that too well. I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh at the time, and the Yu-Gi-Oh format just got really bad. This was when tier format like ended and Cash tier
Oh,
ended
Cash. That's when I quit
entered.
too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because I liked
yeah,
Tier. I
and
thought Tier was fun.
oh, I love tier, but
Yeah.
cash format was so toxic. I
Just
hated
zone
that
locking
format so
everything.
much.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, and so just making the move to One Piece was a little easier only because these other games are really bad. And I actually really enjoyed playing One Piece like the first 4 or 5 sets. Like it was great, and the pricing helped
So you don't
immensely.
enjoy playing One Piece now?
Oh no, I definitely do, but not as much as the first 5 sets. The first five
Yeah.
sets I enjoyed a lot.
Well, because you liked Law, right? Is like what about Law was like fun for you?
I just felt like there's a lot of decisions to make. I felt like a lot of the games I won or lost, I had agency with how I was closing out those games. And now I just feel like it's kind of a Moria diff sometimes, or yeah, honestly, I feel like when I play against another skillful player, and we're both playing as optimal as possible, I feel like it definitely just comes down to who has more Morias.
Really? Okay, so
Yeah.
I agree, but I also disagree in a way. Because whenever I was playing, I got top 8 in Arlington when I was playing Sakazuki, and
Yeah.
I had like 3 mirror matches where I only drew like 1 Moria, and they drew like 2, maybe even 3 Morias. And like I felt like the way that I was playing was I was putting a lot of pressure on them, so they were scared to drop Moria.
Yeah.
And while I do agree, like sometimes you can just get like super high rolled out of the game. There like a lot of at that point I was also playing Ice Age too. I was one of the I think I was like one of the first people to actually start playing Ice Age with the stage version because before that I didn't really see a whole lot of people doing it. Like I saw a few people doing it maybe, but like I was I guess one of the first people that I like noticed consistently doing it, and I felt like I had more outs to Moria than other people did without like the stage version, I guess. And a lot of people were playing stage at that point.
Yeah, just a deck building diff by you. That was really good. I also played I like to say I played like the event version with Great Eruption with just a stage popped into my deck.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, I think, and actually, I want to ask you this. I didn't brief you on this before, but
Mhm.
so like, I'm a notorious Tashigi hater. Like notoriously, I
Oh,
only
really?
play 2 Tashigi in my deck. Like I tried playing 4 and I kept bottom decking all my Morias. I kept bottom decking my Luchis, my Rebecca's, my Sabos, and I was like, why am I playing this card when I'm just bottom decking all of my favorite cards I want to draw in like most matchups? So as soon as I cut it down to 2, I topped like 5 of the last 6 tournaments that I played in. Why do you think Tashigi is so good? Because everyone's playing it at 4. I barely ever see anyone play less than 4 copies of it.
So I'm a player that just cares about consistency. I don't really care if my Tashigi bottom decks all my Morias. Like if that could really happen with anything, like your brand new could mill like 3 Morias or like it doesn't playing it Tashigi down doesn't change the odds of you drawing Moria or not. The
Really?
odds like don't change at all. Yeah, like you can bottom deck it, but it's just not worth cutting down Tashigi, in my opinion, because you're like scared to bottom deck all of your important pieces because the odds don't really change. And
You're more of a statistical player then. It seems like, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I care the most about consistency. If you look at most of my deck lists, I rarely run like random one-ups. Like maybe with Sokka, I ran like the one stage, but with Sokka specifically, you are allowed to run random like one-ups because you can always ditch and draw it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why like Sokka is such a broken deck. It's just so consistent, and you're able to run so many different like diverse cards, and you're able to like play for every single like type of matchup with like having like Kuzans for this, Sabos for that, a 7-drop Porcelino for a certain matchup. Like it's just super consistent.
So I guess I know your answer then. Do you think the Sokka ban is is justified?
I do. Only because they've made every other deck around it like not as consistent. There's no other deck in the game, I guess, besides maybe Law, but it's not really the same because yes, nothing compares to having a ditch and draw. An inherent ditch and draw on the leader with its other like free effect, which is -1 the fun.
Huh.
Yeah,
That
and
is interesting, man. Because like, so like this brings me to the topic I asked you about as well earlier. But you know, you recently got top four. What did you finish? Third, fourth in the LA regional?
fourth, yeah.
Fourth. And that feature match, game 3, you bricked super hard. And I'm like, you know, for the most consistent deck in the game, like it feels like Sokka doesn't really hit sometimes. And in set 5, I don't know if you knew this or not, but in North America, not a single Sakazuki won a single tournament in North America.
Really?
Like regional. Yeah, regional or Treasure Cup. It was all Purple Luffy and Enel.
That's interesting. I did not know that at all.
Yeah, the first time Sokka actually won in a North American event was in set 6. And that's when I think actually Sokka became broken, and it's because of Moria and not really Sokka. What do you think about that?
That's interesting. I never considered those odds. But that's just North America, right? Like
That's just North America.
Soccer's definitely one in Europe, one in Asia.
Definitely.
I like to not really look at just North America. I think there's a ton of good players in Europe and in Asia, even like Australia.
Oh, I
Ton of
agree.
good players.
I definitely agree. But so why do you think that is though? Like, are North American players just worse than like every other place? Because we didn't top us. We didn't. Now I will say for context, Sokka didn't get a single win in set 5 in North America, but it had plenty of top 8s. You know what I'm saying? Like plenty of top 8s, and it was mainly dominated. Like top 8 was mainly dominated by Sokka.
So like you said, I try to look at numbers instead of just like the face value of like Sokka not winning.
Yeah.
Like even though Sokka didn't win a single one, I'm sure it had like the best top percentage, top top percentage.
Yeah, it was about split with Enel, like in terms of like a representation based on how many players played the deck. It was about the same as Enel basically, or like I think maybe it's yellow in total. So like Cat plus Enel had the same percentage of tops as Sokka, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And also like some of the best players were also just not on Sokka. Like Chris Sock, for example, amazing player, but he chose to play Purple Luffy.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. So that could be like a little bit why like Sokka wasn't winning as much because like some of the best players just weren't playing Sokka. But I do think in OPO5 Sokka wasn't like the best deck. I think that's why I chose to play Law.
Yeah.
Because I just did not like playing Sokka into the mirror or playing Sokka into other decks. It just felt a little too sacky. It felt like when I played Sokka into Enel, like you need to see the 10 drop, but the 10 drop is sometimes worthless in other matchups. And in the mirror, you have to see like some of your specific 2-card combos to stay in the game. I just did not like that at all.
And you don't like the mirror now, right? With set 6, you said.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually really do like the mirror.
I do too, honestly.
Yeah, I really think I do make a lot of good decisions in the mirror and catch people off guard. Like in Swiss in the LA regionals, I won I think my first 3 soccer games intentionally playing like a Suru down and just punching my opponent down. like just hound blazing their board and trying to like shoot them to zero before they get to play Mario down.
That's actually exactly what I was saying earlier. Was like, if whenever I tell people that I coach or just people in general with Sokka, I'm like, if you don't have Moria, the best way to win that game is to make them not play Moria. And then he can just win from there. And this is where, like, when people put the one of puddings in their deck, like, that was deadly, because people would take their life super greedily because they don't want to counter out of an 8 or a 9k attack, and then they have 8 or 9 cards in hand. You hit them with pudding, and you're like, okay, well, where's your advantage now?
Yeah. And so like that's what I mean. Like some of the best players, I feel like they make sure they can't get like shot down like that to 1 or 0. They'll like counter early and make sure they're not in a position where I could just attach all my Dawn and swing and put pressure on them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I love playing the mirror match more than anything, especially in set 6, is because I feel like a lot of, like, how you felt with Law, where you had a lot of agency over how the game was dictated. Now, of course, sometimes you just like heavily brick, but of the last, like, 5 regionals, like I said, I got 5 tops of my last 6 events with Sokka, and with the last, or I'm sorry, with all those events included, I've only lost 3 mirrors out of 17. And one of them was because I like heavily bricked. One of them was I lost in time, and the other one I lost because I forgot to tap stage, which definitely sucked.
Damn.
Yeah, but like, I feel like I love playing the mirror match because I have a lot of like control over it. But against decks like Red Purple Law and like Whitebeard, I feel like sometimes I just die, and there's nothing I can do to like actually come out of that game. Is that how you felt kind of going into that top 4 match against Red Purple Law, or just your Red Purple Law matchups in general?
Yeah, Red Purple Law is definitely one of those decks where it depends on how you draw, and if you just don't draw well and they draw average, you probably lose. Actually, it's not even just average. They have to draw
I think
stable
it's
early game with killers at the end. Like they need like maybe 2 killers like the whole game, and the whole deck is not searchable, so they're kind of just playing with their top 15 cards.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty much. And the worst part is, though, it's like that deck is so powerful. Like, in my opinion, it has a higher ceiling than Sokka, because not only can it remove your board almost as consistently as Sokka, but it's also going incredibly wide, and it has access to draw with Queen and Reiju. So it feels like when that deck hits, like, it's like impossible to beat that deck.
Yeah, decks like that where you're able to swing, kind of like Law, where you're able to just swing wide and check your opponent's hand. I feel like has a different type of skill. Uh, Being able to swing correctly and check your opponent's hand is an advantage they have over decks like Sokka and now.
Oh, definitely. And you can really, like, you can just end the game like immediately. Oh, by the way, I know that you said you were sponsored by Project CCG. Do you want to shout them out real quick?
Yeah, shout out to Project CCG, and we recently actually just got sponsored by Pyramid, so shout out to them. Use code Project5 for 5% off your order.
Yeah, I'll link that in the description below for you too. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. The other question I wanted to ask you was, what do you think has the worst bricks? Is it, so like, I played Red Green Law a lot as well. Obviously not even close to how good you played it, especially because back then I was still kind of learning the ropes a little bit. But I played Red Green Law, I played Sakazuki. I feel like Sokka has the worst bricks ever, even though not drawing Law, like blocker Law, was so devastating for Red Green Law, because you can bottom deck him obviously with Nami and Dadan. What do you think has the worst the worst downside? Is it Sokka or is it Law?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I want to say it's Law, just because sometimes like if you don't draw a green card, the deck is actually unplayable. But with Sokka, like some of your unplayable hands, like you just end up doing nothing, but at least you're able to like ditch and draw and like try to, like, you can at least play like a T-bone or something. Playing a T-bone is actually one of my like favorite plays.
Really?
It's when they have like just the Kuzan on board, and I'm able to minus it by 2 and play a T-bone. I feel like it's such great value, because now they can't like Sword or Lucci for value. They can Houndblaze, but it just depends on like Houndblaze.
If they're playing the
It's a little
Eruption
more
version,
awkward for
they
them.
can, but it's still, I mean, yeah, it's still like an awkward play regardless, like Eruption, then Leader, then, Houndblaze or something like that.
Yeah, so just like playing a T-bone down, not only it just remove a card, but it's also a body they have to consider getting rid of.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree. Now, Cross's list. I don't know if you saw his new law list. Did you take a peek at that yet?
I did, yeah.
What do you think of that? Because I think it looks really good.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't tested that format too much. I haven't tested with the deck or like the cards that often, but in theory, the event doesn't seem that great. It's not searchable. Is it a straw hat? No, it's not a straw hat. It's just
I thought it was a straw hat.
No, I think it's just a supernova.
Or a supernova, yeah. So
Yeah,
I guess
so it is
the
searchable by Bonnie, but I don't really consider that. Like, I don't really think that matters because if you have Bonnie, you probably are fine anyway.
And you're looking for
Bonnie,
law mainly, right? Like that's one of the last cards you're really looking for with Bonnie.
Yeah, exactly.
Because before you're looking for, or I guess now you're looking for more like Cavendish. You're looking for blocker law. You're looking for restand law if you play it, or Luffy if you play it.
Yeah. So I just don't think it fixes any of the problems law has right now against red purple law. Like red purple law just inherently counters red green law as a deck, and I just don't think the event fixes any of the problems.
So real quick, why do you think that red purple law counters that red green law? Because for the most part, I feel like how you can't like red purple law has almost no card advantage other than like the random Reijus. So like I feel like it goes through its hand really quickly, and if you are able to like build a board, which it feels like, it might take a couple turns to do it, but like once you actually are able to use your leader effect and like kind of just take cards out of the opponent's hand, I feel like that actually could realistically beat red purple law, at least like that. There's a route to beating it, right? Like I feel like it doesn't counter it. I mean, but obviously way better than I do.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't tested that format too much. When I do most of my testing, I like to play what's currently out. I don't do any online testing. I don't play on the sim. I don't even read like the feature cards. So I have no idea what I'm playing in set 7. I don't even know what any of the cards do.
That's hilarious.
I usually wait until the cards are in my hands, because I just like physically building the deck in person. I don't like doing stuff online. I don't even like playing these like online events. I don't know what it is, like having to look at your like table and your screen. It's like two separate objects.
It does affect me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like that's the reason I don't play on the simulator a whole lot. Like I only do it because like right now I'm doing like a Patreon kind of guide where I'm kind of going over all the decks I think can realistically like be contenders in set 7, and I've been kind of like testing those matchups just so I can get kind of like a jump start on it. But preferably I don't like playing like online or even on webcams, because like I can get a really good feel for my opponent. Usually like I can read their body language normally, and like physically holding the cards and like being at that event and like looking at the table like across from me, I feel like I just play better. Like I guess you're the same way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I started playing card games in person, and I think that's like the main reason why. It's because I started playing in person, and it's just how I like to play it.
Yeah, and it's just more fun too, because you can hang out with your friends and experience new things and kind of travel.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I think you know him. I'm not sure. Maybe he knows you. Maybe you don't know him. His name is Alex. His name is Zaru on Discord.
Oh,
and
yes,
then
yes.
Billy. Yeah, they said that you helped them a lot, like getting better at the game. Like what kind of advice would you give someone that's trying to get to your level, or like maybe even their first serial card?
I would say just to keep grinding. Like when you're at locals, maybe not like focus on winning, but more focus on how you could play better, what decision lines you had, and why you chose that decision, and making sure like the decision you made isn't the wrong one, of course.
Yeah.
And I guess keeping an open mind when it comes to either deck building or even just playing, like just because there is what people say there's a correct play, just because people say, oh, you're supposed to cruise on 4 doesn't mean it's always the correct play. Like, I would say always analyze each game and treat every turn as like a different puzzle to solve.
I'm very happy you said that, because I completely agree. What you have in common with me, and also I heard Cross say this as well, is that the best players like really like just because something is the right play initially doesn't mean it actually is the right play in that situation, because you know you could lead, like it could lead to a completely different board state in like 3 turns. So it feels like the best players actually take the game one play at a time, but keep their options open enough to be able to change that play depending on how their opponent responds. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
is that so? Like, with that being said, what do you think you do really well? Like, what do you feel like you thrive at in this game? Like, your biggest strength is to, like, I mean, you've won 9 serial cards, bro. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. You're currently ranked number 3 in the entire world in terms of like, well, I don't think they take into account Asia on that, but number 3,
Mhm.
and you were number 2 for like a
Yeah.
long time. What do you think has like made you that successful? Like, what kind of goes through your head during these games?
I don't know. When I'm playing in tournament, I don't know if you've seen me ever at like a regionals. I just have a poker face on. I probably look like super mad,
And you have your
but
hoodie on,
I'm
yeah,
just yeah, I'm just locked in.
yeah.
I'm completely locked in. There's nothing else going on in the game except me and my opponent and our boards, and I'm just completely focused. And I'm not really tunnel visioning on the game. I'm more like just solving each turn, like seeing what options I have, and at not maybe not at regionals, but at like locals, I will try to like limit test a little bit and see what plays I can do, what I can get away with sometimes, and I'm constantly trying to adapt and learn.
Okay. And then for what would you say your biggest weakness is? Like, what do you do a lot that causes you to lose games? Like, do you have one, or do you like kind of just like, oh, if they have it type thing?
Um,
Like, do you play too fast?
Honestly,
You not
I'm
think?
not sure. I would say like maybe my biggest weakness is like going out to like some of these events, or I'm like going out to too many events, so I don't have time to like play locals and completely like test play like the whole format. Like I don't get a. I used to try to learn every single decks and know the ins and outs of every single deck. But lately, because of how much I've been traveling, I haven't been able to do that with every single deck. So I'm there could be like an unsolved deck of like this format that people don't know of. Um, just for example, like Red Green Law set 2. I thought I was crazy for this, but I played no Searcher Nami in my deck, and
You're right. You are
I only
crazy.
got yeah, I only played that because in my testing I like solved this Red Green Law list and it felt great against the whole meta, and so testing, sometimes you can find some crazy decks and win with it. Like for example, Stage Shaka with Noel, I'm pretty sure is the first person to build that deck.
Yeah. It
And
was over in Europe, right?
no, this was in Asia, like back when they had set 6, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, a long time ago. And he was the very first person that I saw top with that list. And it honestly, at first glance, it doesn't look like a good list. But after playing it, of course, you know, everyone has seen how good Stage Shaka is.
I
So
personally, so like I was a huge fan of Sokka in Step 5, and I
yeah.
feel like I don't even like Eruption version anymore after playing the like stage version. And like I'll take this to my grave. Like it feels like Stage Sokka just has like way better like recursion, because like
Mhm.
instead of you going just like like Great Eruption Helmeppo Lucci, like you're clearing 2 characters still, except you're bottom decking them, but at the
Yeah.
same time you can also possibly get back like a 2k, you're getting back a blocker, like, you know, if you don't need all of the cost reduction, you can play like Rebecca and then a Tashigi or a brand new, and like you can get back 2 2ks possibly and a blocker, and like it just feels like you have so much more defense when it comes to Stage
Mhm.
Sokka rather than Eruption Sokka. And also like Murakuma Sword is absolutely insane in that deck.
Yeah.
And I feel
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
yeah, like the first, like I guess if Noel was the first person, I don't know Noel personally, or I'm actually not sure exactly who that is, but if he was the
Mhm.
first person to kind of initiate Stage Sokka, he's kind of a genius, because that deck feels incredible.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think Stage Sokka has a better late game than normal Sokka, Greater Eruption Sokka. But I like the early game the Great Eruption version has, and the Great Eruption version also gives you slightly better odds of seeing Gecko. And so I think after playing this format, I do really like the my final list I'm playing right now, the one with like 3 great eruptions and 1 stage.
That's pretty popular
Um,
right now, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I feel like it makes the mirror a lot easier. Your early game is a lot better, so you're able to have more games where you're able to like punch your opponent down and not let them have a chance to play Sokka. Or sorry, Gecko.
Gecko. What do you think is your least favorite color to play against?
Ooh. Hmm. I think it just depends on the format. Back then, when I was playing Red Green Law, it was probably green, just because it was so annoying when they like rest your cards.
Was that set
Uh,
one when they were playing Kid?
I want to say this was set 2 with Kinemon for sure, especially if they played Neko, the cat that you drop
Oh yeah,
2/3
Cat
cat.
Viper. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever the people playing that just cooked me. But right now, I would probably say yellow. Yellow is just such a absurd deck. Like that deck's win rate is abysmal, and for some reason, people still choose to play it and set and just sack random people out of the tournament.
Yeah, I'm
So,
so happy you said that, Nikki, because I think the same thing about Nami. Like not just yellow,
really,
but I think Nami is an abysmal deck, and I think yellow and Nami, like people go to those tournaments to grief people. Like there's one Nami player in every like 30 regionals that top like 16s, and like
yeah.
people will still go into them like with these decks. At least like Anel and Katakuri have like, wins, like have tournament wins, they have like a lot of tournament tops. And like
Mhm.
even though the win rate is abysmal, I do agree that like yellow and Nami are just, they solely exist to like get people's tiebreakers completely ruined so they don't top. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, you're not gonna like to hear this, but I actually love Nami. I'm a Nami
no.
fan.
You like
Yeah, I love
playing
that deck.
against it?
Well, playing against it, I love just because
With Law
I
is so
actually
free.
think, yeah, with Law it's free, but with any deck, I actually think you can win with any deck because it's just if you just know how to swing into that deck and play around their events, I think you can win with any deck.
Really?
And so, yeah, I believe if you just know how to play against Nami, you'll never lose. And at the same time, if you play Nami, and you play it extremely well, like where you know your whole stack, I think you can win almost any game too.
Damn.
And,
Wow, I
yeah,
did
and
not
that's why I
expect
like
you to be a
Nami.
Nami enjoyer right there.
Yeah, I love Nami. Yeah.
Do you think in terms for yellow, obviously, because they can just trigger into anything and steal games, even though they have
Mhm.
no, like it's not them doing it, it's just their deck getting lucky. Do you think
Yeah.
that there's like a realistic chance that they could like nerf triggers in the future?
Probably not. I don't think it's like to the point where it's unfair. I just think they've created too many cards that players have to play around. Like the fact that you constantly have to think of like a Maru reject, Flampe, and all these other cards
Yep.
that could be in your opponent's deck, but you're not sure, and you just have to play around it just because it exists.
Yep.
I think that's the reason why yellow's such a toxic deck to play against. Like most important, like the most relevant one is reject. Like any yellow deck can play reject. It's such a generic card, and so you're constantly thinking, oh, if I go to 1 life, I'm basically at 0, or like, and it's also never a dead card because it's at worst it's a 4 cost card that pops a 5, right?
Yeah.
So
So I agree. When I got my top 8 in Arlington, I played a cat in top 16, and
Mhm.
the entire game plan was like I just have to, like I know exactly how to play against cat, where you basically just swing a bunch of fives and like whittle down their hand, and then you go for game while also protecting your life with like Sabo or something like that, so they can't like reject and then obviously clear their board. But at the same time, I feel like that deck can just like, that was before Flampe came out, so and people didn't play Hiyori. Like I saw, like I know Cross was like kind of high on Katakuri as well, and the people weren't playing Hiyori. They weren't playing Katakuri, or I'm sorry, not Katakuri, Thunderbolt. So like I felt like when I looked at my opponent's list and saw that they weren't playing Hiyori or Thunderbolt, I was like, oh my god, like thank God, like I'm a lot more safe. But like that was open deck list in Top Cut. If you're playing against a random yellow player, they can have like Cracker, they can have like
yeah.
Thunderbolt, they can like have like Onami, they can have so many cards that just like, like it is real. And what I hate what people say is like, like especially if a good player says this, it kind of like like triggers me because they say like,
Mhm.
oh, just play around the trigger. I'm like, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, there's only so many cards you can play around, you know.
Yeah, it's
And I
it's
feel like that's how you lose to yellow. Like it's because you're playing around something that just doesn't exist, or you're playing around like a possible cracker trigger or a possible Maru reject, and you just lose because they have like the other line that beats you instead.
yeah. And I told this to Jonas when I was in Oviedo. I don't know. Were you in Oviedo?
Mhm. Yes,
Oh yeah, you got
I
top
got top
eight.
eight that
Yeah, I was gonna
event.
say you got top
Yeah.
eight. I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah. So Oviedo, I played against this guy. I was 3-0 at this point, and I played against this cat player, and I was on Saka, and he goes, "Oh, I've never played against Saka a day in my life with cat." And I'm like, "Oh man, this is about to be free,
What?
bro. This is like a farm, bro. I'm about to be 4-0." And it was a short
Yeah.
tournament too, so I was like, "Yo, I'm about to get at least top 64." And when I tell you, it like if the second the cards were placed into his life, there's no way I was winning that game. I mean, this guy legitimately like Kiku, like a
Oh
freaking
man.
Amaru reject. Like he had like just like every good, and then he had the last event was beige, and then he like I had like no removal or anything. Like it was just bad. And like this guy literally, I'm telling you, was making all of the wrong decisions on every single turn, and he wiped the floor with me because his life was like he had like 8 triggers out of life. Like every card that I gave him out of life or his 10 cost big bomb was just like a super impactful trigger that I couldn't get off the board.
Yeah, my loss that day actually was to Kata as well. I lost to I believe he got second place. Um, and I remember why I lost. I lost because I think I was just playing around too many things, and I was just overloaded with decisions to make, and I that's how I ended up misplaying that match.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels bad when you're playing around a card they literally don't even play. you're
Yeah,
like
for real.
you're like, all right, bro. Like I'm gonna play around the cards that I think you might play, and then they'd like pull out some like random like rush Katakuri or something. You're like, all right, bro. Like you got
Well,
it.
funny story actually. One of my matches in at Gen Con, I this was against Andy Din, or is that his name? Yeah, Andy. He was playing Whitebeard, and I was playing Law, and I lost by 1K because I decided to play around Red Hawk, and so I went 12-13 instead of 13-13 because I left one Don open in case he like was able to Red Hawk me. So I needed a card to play,
Yeah, and then they
and
don't
it's
even
and
play it.
yeah, I saw his deck list after the event, and he didn't even play Red Hawk, and I was just like, oh my god, I lost because I played around this one card.
Yeah, you lost
So
because you're making the right decision, but it actually cost you.
yeah,
I wanted to
yeah.
ask too. So like, this is a question that I have been very vocal about the answer to, but I'm very curious to see your answer to this. So like you say you have a lot like there's a lot of agency in terms of like the decisions you make that like end up winning you the games. But whenever you're playing in these big events, is there just like a lot of luck that goes into just like matchups in general? So like for me personally, even though that like, you know, you have a lot of control over like, you know, playing Sakazuki and playing like red green law, for example, if you just run into
Mhm.
like 3 aces, you know what I'm saying? Like especially in set 3 when
Yeah,
like, you know, ace, or set 4 when like Rebecca came out, like
yeah.
you're just kind of cooked, right? Like is a decent amount of like topping kind of matchup dependent, you think?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it just depends on the format, but that definitely exists in every single card game. Like there will always be a deck that like could beat your deck. So I would just say like it's just you just have to play the numbers game. Like when I'm picking Sokka as a deck in for events right now, I actually think right now the worst matchup is Katakuri only because they just got Flampe, and so now you can't ever like leave them at like 3-4 lives to
Well, they
play
had
around Reject
Hiyori
and
too,
Maru.
though, which was a problem because Hiyori does the same thing except for one cost more.
You're right, but like being one cost more and not drawing an extra card, I think is huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, and also one really important thing is Flampe is searchable. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah. Forgot about that.
yeah, yeah, and it's a 2K counter. It's just such a broken card. So like you can literally just Katakuri literally just threw 4 Flampes into the deck and replaced whatever 2K they ran before. While Hiyori, if they wanted to throw it into the deck, they're losing out on consistency. and it costs an extra Dawn, and the card wasn't like the greatest in that deck.
Yeah.
And so when I pick Sokka for an event, I just gotta hope like you don't run into Kata like the first 3 rounds, because after like the third, fourth, fifth round, like if you stay XO or even X1, the odds of you playing Kata are much lower, just because Kata's win rate into the meta right now is abysmal. Like they lose to
Everything.
RP Law. Like even though they're supposed to beat Sokka, they probably have a worse win rate into that deck. It's probably more of like a 60-40.
It's because they can just
in
high
favor
roll
for
you. That's why
Sokka.
like Sokka doesn't really want to play against it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, funny thing is, I actually played Kata my round 1 and at the LA regionals. So I was actually terrified. I was like, oh my
You're
god, I
like,
can't believe I'm
no,
playing
bro.
Kata round 1. Yeah.
So that's
And
what
I
happened to me
won.
with in Arlington. I played against Nami round 1, and I teched in a Gion just in case I played Nami, and
my God.
I ended up drawing it turn 1, and I was like, oh my god, bro, thank you. I was like praying to the god.
You're such a sag. Oh my god. But yeah, I ended up winning that Kata match because he forgot to use an Amaru when he swung for game. He went like reject on my last life and attached 6 Dawn and swung 13 or 12. No, 13. Is it?
It's
I'll do
6
math.
plus 1,
6,
so
11,
7, so it's
12.
12. Yeah.
Yeah, he swung 12 and I had exactly 13. And I saw later in his hand that he had an Amaru. And I asked him like, "Oh, did you have this in your hand?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, why didn't you use it? It gives you power. And and he was just so mind blown after.
Wow. That's funny. And because this question relates to the question I just asked you about like matchup dependent. But
Yeah.
so I go to my locals sometimes, or I go to my locals and I get like destroyed sometimes at locals, even though like I've topped so many tournaments now. Do you go to locals and get like wiped sometimes and you're like, yo, like this is crazy. Like you guys are seeing me, you know, getting all of these cereals and then I just get waxed by some new guy. Like, does that feel horrible?
No. It doesn't feel horrible, but my locals, at least specifically around me, I think all the players are extremely good, and I think they contribute to my success. The only reason like why I'm able to do so well is because everyone at locals is so good, and everyone is just constantly making everyone better. Shout out to everyone at Wildcard, Project CCG, and Core TCG locals.
And where is this at, by the way?
This is all in Southern California. It's more specifically in like the San Gabriel Valley. And all 3 card shops are within maybe like 20 minutes of each other. So if you're in the area, I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah. That's funny you say that because a lot of people that I've interviewed on this channel have talked about their local scene playing a huge part in, you know, their success. And I also contribute my local scene as well because I have people in my local scene that don't really play in tournaments because they just have like a lot of like life things, you know, like they have like kids and like work or whatever it is. And they're really good at the game. And like they have no tops or the very little tops, but like I trust their opinion more than I trust like 90% of the YouTubers that have tops, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's crazy how a
same thing.
local scene can be so important to like someone like getting success. And what's funny is one of my buddies that I playtest with a lot, and I think he's really, really, really good. And he's like, I'm living vicariously through you because I don't have a whole lot of time to play in these tournaments. But every time that I beat you and see that you top, it makes me be like, oh yeah, like I'm right there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's the best feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that for them, man. Cause I really believe in a lot of these people. Like, and that's why I asked you about the about like it being kind of luck based in terms of topping, because there's plenty of tournaments where like I've gone to them and I've just gotten like I've like low rolled and like basically just like bricked with Sokka and like have gotten like my tiebreakers ruined because people dropped or, you know, got disqualified or something like that. And it's like, it's not really your fault. Like you said, it is a numbers game, and like you have to just keep playing in tournaments.
Yeah, it definitely happens. Like this game, any card game is not like, there's definitely luck involved, and it's very uncommon for like the same player to constantly win, but it has happened before.
Except for you.
Yeah. And so yeah, the best you can do really is just play the numbers and hope for the best, because at the end of the day you can't always win, because if you are always winning, it is a little sus, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta lose some to win some.
Someone tell Chris Sock he's sus right now, bro, because he has like 20 cereals.
Yeah.
One more question before I let you get out of here. But
Mhm.
I wanted to ask this when you're talking about like more the statistics behind the game. But you're very analytical, I can already tell. And you already said you're analytical. Do you
Yeah.
do you have like a spreadsheet in terms of like the percentage of your wins based on like draw? Because like I know it sounds kind of confusing, but the Yu-Gi-Oh players will know what I'm talking about. Is like
Yeah.
they'll have like an entire like percentage of like, you know, the cards that you are realistically likely to draw, and like the percentage of how many times you draw them, and then like the percentage of wins if you don't draw them, like things like that. Do you do that?
I don't constantly, but if I ever need to, I will. Like I have the tools to ever find out. Like if I ever want to find out like what the percentage is of like drawing a 3 of in my deck or something, like with Saka effect, like I can always go on like a hypergeometric calculator and just input the numbers. But most of the time, I usually just have a good feeling about the percentages. So most of it is just in my head. Because percentages, at least in card games, it doesn't really matter if it's completely accurate as long as you have a an idea of where that number is. I think that's all that matters.
I'm happy you said that too, because that's how I know you say you don't care about bottom decking geckos, but like when I'm halfway through the game, or like I'm like a quarter way through the game and I haven't seen a gecko, or like trashed a
Mhm.
gecko or bottom deck a gecko, and I have a Tashigi in hand, I'm like, yo, like I cannot like I cannot play this card. And I
Yeah,
actually
but
learned that
like
from Red
that's
Green Law.
different.
Actually,
Mhm.
I learned that playing Red Green Law, where I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
really?
I'm you know I'm 15 cards deep in my deck. I haven't seen Blocker Law. Like I have to search with Bonnie first because you know Blocker Law could come up. Where it's like the same thing now with like I'm like, okay, I like if I'm gonna play one searcher, it's got to be brand new because I have less of a chance of, you know, of getting rid of like my geckos that are coming up in this game. Do you think like that too?
Yeah, absolutely. And like so when I meant by like Tashigi doesn't really change your odds, I'm really mostly meant that like turn one, like I would not be scared to like play a Tashigi in the early game.
Oh,
By
I'm the
early game
same
I
way. Yeah,
mean
yeah,
yeah, I mean like maybe like 5, 6 on or before. Because you really need to survive the early game to get to the late game. Like if you don't survive the early game, it doesn't matter if you draw all your geckos, you might not win if you didn't have a good enough early game.
yeah.
And like so later in the game when you have knowledge of most of your deck, they're making that decision to not play a Tashigi to bottom deck geckos, I think is a good play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy you said that. Yeah, yeah. Because what's funny is I love whenever I interview people on this channel because like they'll say things that validate the things I've been thinking for a long time, and I'm like I don't even
Mhm.
know if this is necessarily right or not, but like you know you guys have obviously seen a ton of success, so it helps me like okay like this crazy thought I had in my head kind of works, and
Yeah.
and that kind of goes into it plays a little bit more so because um I thought I had the most unique Sokka deck in the entire game because I was only playing two Tashigi. And then I look at
Mhm.
Cross's top 16 list, and this dude's playing like two Pilaf, playing like zero brand news, playing. I'm like, yo, like this is crazy. Like, what? Actually, yeah, this is the last question. What do you think of like that in terms? Because I know you were the first person to play like Dogron or something like, or whatever his name is for,
Dogora, yeah.
yeah, Dogra for Law. Like,
Mhm.
how do you feel about like every person can play a completely different style of a deck based on like their play style? Like, do you think because you're a statistics guy, do you think that like is like a bad way of thinking?
A little bit. I don't really believe in playstyle, but I do think deck building and making being able to build a unique deck that plays differently is really cool and really important. And so like looking at Cross's list, you know, it's very easy to say at first, like at looking at it, the deck looks terrible. You know, it
Oh,
has
I
no
agree.
brand new, has one Hound Blaze.
I said the
But
same thing, bro.
after analyzing the deck a little like longer, you know, taking a good look, not completely dismissing his theories, the deck actually kind of made sense, you know, like because you're not running brand news, there's merit to not running Hound Blazes because you don't really have a way of giving like something on the board
Yeah.
power to give you an extra attack. And like the deck had like 4 swords and So there was definitely some like there's definitely some logic when he was making that list, and I really wish I got to play against that deck, because I can never say like the deck was trash because I never played against it. I haven't
Yeah.
even seen it play. So I wanna, I don't know. Next time I see Cross, I should just like see if he wants to play.
Yeah.
'Cause,
And
yeah, I will never know if that deck was like actually good or not.
yeah, and what's funny is like I love Cross for playing that list because it validated what I was saying earlier. Was like because I only play two Tashigi, like that's my playstyle. And even like it's funny you said that's like incorrect a little bit, because I feel like playstyle does change your deck list a lot, like between like, because even with Law, like my buddy Hasm, I don't know if you know Hasm or not. He's a really good Law player. He had a couple serials on Law, and like there was a list one time he was playing like Punk Gibson, he was playing like 8-cost Kid before other people were playing 8-cost Kid, and he was playing like all this like weird shit, and he was like, yeah, I built my list to be a little bit more defensive, and because like that's my play style. And I was like, I love that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it does change a lot. And like Cross's list, like I was so excited when I saw it, because like I was just like everybody else. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yo, what the hell is this? Like, this is whack. But I really do think it does have merit, exactly what you said, like the decisions he made. And obviously it worked for him, so you can't really dismiss it.
Yeah, obviously it had to be good, but honestly, I feel like Cross like carried that deck more than the deck carried him.
Oh, probably, yeah. I mean, he's a really good player.
But again, like I can never know like how good the deck is just because I've never played against it, and the format's ending soon, so it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to get a play against it in a tournament.
That's fair. That's fair. Do you have any final things you'd like to say? Any shout outs? Anything like that?
No, just shout out to all my local guys. Project CCG, Adam, Kyle, Dylan, Brian, Alex from Florida. You guys, everyone is so nice. Noe, Tim, are they from your locals as well?
Who is it?
Like Alex, Noe, and Tim.
I've only met Alex and Billy. If I have met the other two, then I'm sorry guys, but no, I met them at like events, and I just thought they were really cool. Yeah, I met Billy when him and I were both in top cut for Arlington, and then Alex, I met him in the Virginia regional, and we've just been like cool ever since. So.
Oh, okay. You know what's funny? I actually met Alex at the Virginia regional as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought you guys knew each other just because you guys are both from Florida, but Florida's huge.
He's Miami. I'm Jacksonville, but I'm actually moving to Vegas this month. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we'll be on the same time zone.
Nice, cool.
Yeah, but thanks so much, man. You've been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for doing this interview. And
yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.